ROCHobby 24 scale, ROCHobby 18 scale, ROCHobby 10 scale, ROCHobby 6... ROCHobby 10 scale? How long have we been asking for this? ROCHobby, a division of FMS Model, has given us the new Mashigan, and in this video, we're gonna take a look at the amazing detail on the body. I've pulled the truck apart so we can see the inner workings. I'll show you what's included in the kit, and I'm gonna find a special place to drive it. Now we can take a closer look at the Mashigan. This isn't a licensed model, and that's why it falls under the ROCHobby line. It does, however, have all the details of a regular YJ. Now the body is a hard plastic, as you would expect from the brand. The paint job is absolutely flawless. Even the cap is painted the matte black, and there are just lots of details that we need to go over. The front grille is also painted in matte black. Just a simple bar bumper up front, like the painted fender flares. Now the hood opens on this, the doors open, the rear tailgate opens, and even the glass lifts up on the cap. Folding mirrors with nice mirrored glass, separate door handles, windshield wipers. The whole window assembly does fold down just like a real YJ. You do have to go and install the spare tire yourself. That's separate during shipping. But they even gave this model clear lenses for all of the markers, the headlights and tail lights. There are LED lights in the front headlights. Now let's take a closer look at the interior. Again, the seats actually come separate. You have to go and screw them in yourself. I'm guessing that's just so they don't break during shipping. They are coated in this rubber, so it's like a realistic seat. Same with the rear seats. The interior is black. The door panels actually screw into the doors, which is really cool. Then we've got a full dashboard, pedals under the dash, steering wheel. The only thing that bothered me was you have to go and put the decals on the dashboard. Really wish they did that from the factory, because you have to remove the roof in order to get in there to apply those decals. And it's a little tricky to remove the roof actually, but you could go and customize it. Basically, there are some screws in the back that you have to go and remove for the cap. Then you have to remove the roll bar screws, tilt everything forward, and then remove 2 screws in the front windshield, which will allow you to pull the cap off. Then you could go back and put the roll bar in. When I did go and pull the cap off, what I did to secure the roll bar to the front windshield was I used the screws from the rear of the cap and just put it in through the top. That's a little tip for you in case you want to go rock this thing without the cap on it. Actually, with the cap, you could also remove the side windows too, and you could fold up the rear glass. However, you have to take the tire off in order to flip it up. Now, time to look under the hood. We'll pop this up, and it actually has a hood prop. And this is how you access the battery compartment. Here's the channel right here that the battery just sits in. Next to it is the 35-turn ROCHobby motor. We have a Hobbywing 1060 speed controller, and over here is the receiver. Love how they go and put wire loom on everything to neaten up the interior. You could also see the inner fender liners, and then the transmission, or part of the transmission. There's a gear reduction unit inside this housing, and that goes down to a transfer case below, mounted on the center skid. Now you can flip this thing over and take a look at the chassis. Metal frame rails, just like the ones on the Jimny from what I could tell. However, some of the cross bracing is different, such as the center skid and some of the rear plates, because the body mounts down to them. Same with the front. You can see the steering servo. Not sure what type of servo that is. They don't have any markings on it, but they do have metal linkages, which I really like. And then moving on to the suspension, it's a 4-link suspension setup with metal links and metal pivot balls, so that's really cool. The shocks on here are pretty short. They're not an oil-filled shock. They do have a pretty firm spring because they have to support this heavy body. There is a little bit of oil on the inside. They're actually sealed. There's O-ring seals, but there's only like 2 drops of oil, and I think that's just so the shaft doesn't bind up. Now onto the driveline. I already mentioned the transmission up front goes down to a transfer case or RCV drive shafts, ball bearings, and then we have slider drive shafts with CV joints down to the axles. I went and pulled the axles apart for you guys. Metal gears on the inside, so I'm really happy to see that. And then metal axle shafts in the rear and universals up front. The shape of the axle actually looks really good, much similar to the one used on the Jimny. However, they have new bosses that mate up with the linkages. Finally, we'll talk about the wheel and tire combo. It is a plastic beadlock style wheel, foam inserts, and then these tires, which look very much like a Hyrax tire. So in that respect, it's probably going to work really well. However, I would have liked to have seen their own unique design. So how did ROCHobby do with their first 1/10 scale crawler? Let me know in the comments section below after we take it out for a drive. Here's that special spot I was talking about, Sherwood Island. I just thought it'd be the perfect spot to test out the Mashigan, pull the top off, and drive around the beach in 45-degree weather. See how it does crawl on these beach rocks here? We got some sharp edges. We might scrape some paint. Oh, definitely hit that step. We're getting through. Wow, that was impressive. See how slow I could get it with this stock speed controller in here? Just barely touching the trigger. It's maintaining a decent speed. I mean, I even have the wheels cranked a little bit. There we go, we're straightening it out. Not bad. That's a pretty smooth crawl. So far the drive has been a lot of fun, but the doors keep popping open. Same with the hood, so I had to use some hatch tape from my bag to hold them down. All right, let's wrap up the Mashigan. I drove it at the beach, I drove it on the trails, got a bunch of runtime in on it, and let's start off with the good stuff here, and that is the body. If you're an early Jeep fan, you're gonna love the detail on this. I just love how the doors open, the hood opens, but that's also its downfall, because when you're driving this thing, there's some flex in this body, and the hood will pop up on you, or the doors will open, or the tail glass will lift up, and I even had the tailgate swing out on me when I had the cap off, and unfortunately, I was backing up and hit a rock and it broke the hinges. And after a little while, actually on the trails, the tailgate finally just broke completely off because of the, it swung open, it kept swinging open on me. I did use some tape to kind of secure everything, but that's not very scale looking. So that's something to consider with this. Maybe some two-sided tape in the hinge areas might help fix that. But that is one downfall to this rig. The electronics seem to work okay. The speed controller is something that we're used to. The drag brake is a little bit awkward sometimes. The low throttle feels a little bit awkward. Steering seems to be decent, not a ton of throw. It's not a 45-degree angle truck, but it does have some good steering to it. The servo is very loud, and the plastic servo horn needs to go because I could see the wheels just flexing back and that arm just bending. There's a lot of traction from these Hyrax-like tires, so that is a benefit. And the suspension on this thing is really bouncy. We've got the links on there, which I thought would be really cool, but then because we just have friction shocks, it just bounces around. If they had oil shocks on here, it would have been perfect. I know it's not scaled to this particular rig, but they do have leaf springs as an option. Kind of wish they included it on this truck. I did do a little bit of light crawling with it, and it does seem to work pretty well. Again, if you do a little bit of work with the shocks, I think it's going to handle a lot better, but it does have some crawling ability. Its specialty is really just driving on the trails, I think. It was a blast to drive around on the beach. I think a lot of people are gonna have fun detailing this rig and modifying it as well. I bet you people are gonna jump on this, mod it so it handles better. I think the group is off to a great start, and like we've seen with their other rigs, rigs, they keep on getting better and better, so I'm excited to see what they come out with next.